If Jayson Tatum wanted to throw himself on the tracks, that train could have screeched to a halt. He clearly didn't want to do that.
That is disrespectful. I can't wait to see Jaylen Brown's first game back in Boston, what that reception is going to be, and who he's going to be going after.
There was definitely a message being sent, and that message was received. I wasn't thrilled with the amount of respect that was showed during this process. You know, I did feel like it was a lack of respect.
Jaylen Brown just got traded away from the only NBA team he's ever played for, and the way he walked out the door made a lot of people stop and pay attention. He didn't point the finger at the front office, and he didn't complain about money. Instead, he dropped 5 words that instantly had the whole league talking. That short message spread fast, and before long, everyone was looking at the same person, Jayson Tatum. For 9 years, they stood side by side. They battled together, reached the NBA Finals together, won a championship together, and built what fans believed was one of the strongest partnerships in basketball. Then everything changed. To be clear, nobody has presented hard evidence that Tatum pushed for Brown to be traded, and it's important to separate rumors from facts. But ESPN insider Tim McMahon shared a comment that immediately got people thinking.
If Jayson Tatum wanted to throw himself on the tracks, that train could have screeched to a halt. He clearly didn't want to do that.
His words were, think about what that could mean. By the time the trade became public, the process may have already been moving behind the scenes. Some fans believe the franchise superstar could have spoken up if he wanted to, while others argue that players don't always have that kind of influence. Whatever the truth is, one thing stood out. Tatum never publicly fought against the move, and that silence quickly became part of the conversation. 9 years together, 2 trips to the NBA Finals, 1 championship. Then, almost overnight, Brown was on his way to Philadelphia. The partnership that fans were told would last for years suddenly came to an end. Everyone remembered the celebrations, the handshakes, the smiles, and the championship trophy they lifted together. It looked like a brotherhood that couldn't be broken. Then Brown spoke, and those 5 words completely changed how many people looked at the situation. Suddenly, fans wanted answers. The one person many expected to explain things, Jayson Tatum, has stayed quiet, and that has only created more questions. This isn't just internet chatter from people throwing out random theories. Jaylen Brown, the 2024 Finals MVP, is now in Philadelphia after Boston's front office explained the move as part of creating financial flexibility. ESPN's Tim McMahon has covered the league for years and often reports on what happens behind the scenes. Senior NBA writer Vince Goodwill also followed the situation closely and didn't soften his observations. These are established reporters discussing a major story, and their comments added even more attention to what was already a shocking trade. For years, fans saw Brown and Tatum as a 2-man force that helped bring another championship to Boston. But now, some people are wondering if things were more complicated behind the scenes than anyone realized. That's still speculation, but the questions haven't gone away. Then there's Tatum's own reaction. His first comments caught a lot of attention because they didn't sound like what many fans expected. He didn't sound excited, and he didn't clearly sound relieved either. Instead, one word kept standing out.
To be honest, it's weird. It's weird. You know, you play on a team with a guy for 9 years, who I was fortunate enough to go to the finals with twice and win a championship.
Take a second and think about it. 9 years together, 2 finals appearances, a championship, nearly an entire NBA career shared with one teammate. Yet the word Tatum used wasn't proud, heartbroken, or angry. The word he repeated was weird. That's a word people sometimes use when they can't fully explain what they're feeling. It can describe confusion, surprise, or something that simply doesn't feel right. Out of every possible way to describe the moment, that's the word he landed on, and he said it more than once. Then came another line that made people pay even closer attention.
There was definitely a message being sent, and that message was received. I wasn't thrilled with the amount of respect that was showed during this process. You know, I did feel like it was a lack of respect.
He said, one day, you find out. The way he described it made it sound like the news reached him suddenly, almost like everyone else who woke up and saw the headlines. Whether that's exactly how everything happened remains unclear, but those words became another big part of the conversation. Maybe that's exactly what happened, or maybe those words leave room for different interpretations. But the player on the other side of the trade saw the situation very differently. That player is Jaylen Brown, And while Tatum described everything as weird, Brown focused on something else entirely: respect. His words were, "A message was sent." And Brown made it clear that he felt that message loud and clear. Read those comments from the perspective of someone who believed the trade carried a deeper meaning. Instead of simply moving on, he let everyone know that he understood how the situation felt from his point of view. This wasn't the typical goodbye where a player thanks the organization, smiles for the cameras, and quietly heads to a new team. Brown's comments suggested he believed something had been communicated without anyone saying it directly. That's why so many people paid attention to what he chose to say and what he chose not to say. One detail stands out more than anything else. Throughout all of his comments, Jaylen Brown never mentioned Jayson Tatum by name. He talked about respect. He talked about receiving a message, but he never directly blamed any specific person. That left plenty of room for fans and analysts to form their own opinions, even though Brown himself stopped short of making a direct accusation. When reporters asked how he was handling everything, he didn't pretend everything was fine.
It's a bunch of emotions. I'm still processing everything, so give me some time. But I'm also looking forward to what...
His response was simple: still processing. Those two words sounded like someone trying to make sense of a major change. He also didn't describe the move as mutual, and he never brushed it off as just business. Instead, he returned to the idea that a message had been sent, and he made it clear he was focused on what comes next. Now go back to what ESPN insider Tim McMahon said. His comments weren't about leaked text messages, secret recordings, or public demands. Instead, the discussion centered on whether someone with influence could have spoken up. Some observers have questioned whether Tatum could have done more behind the scenes, while others believe that's impossible to know from the outside. There is no confirmed evidence that he had that kind of role, but the debate continues because of how unexpected the trade was. Then came another comment that kept the story alive. Senior NBA writer Vince Goodwill shifted attention away from what already happened and toward what could happen next.
That is disrespectful. I can't wait to see Jaylen Brown's first game back in Boston, what that reception is going to be, and who he's going to be going after.
Who he's going to be going after. That wording immediately caught people's attention. It suggested that Brown's return to Boston could become one of the biggest games on the schedule. When Philadelphia faces the Celtics at TD Garden, emotions are almost certain to be high. Fans will be watching every possession, every interaction, and every reaction. Whether Brown views it as personal is something only he knows, but there's no doubt people will be paying close attention. People don't usually describe an ordinary trade this way. The reactions from reporters and fans have turned this into a much bigger conversation than a standard roster move. Some see it as unfinished business, while others believe it's simply the emotion that comes with a surprising trade. Either way, the story has taken on a life of its own. Now compare the two versions of the story. The first is the one fans watched for years. A partnership built over 9 seasons, 2 trips to the NBA Finals, and a championship that seemed to prove their bond was built to last. It looked like 2 stars growing together every step of the way. The second version is built from questions, reactions, and public comments. It suggests there may have been tension behind the scenes that fans never saw. That's still speculation, not established fact, but it's one reason this trade has created so much discussion. The same 9 years can be viewed through completely different lenses depending on how people interpret everything that happened. That's why this story hits so hard. Brown and Tatum weren't teammates for 1 season or 2. They spent nearly a decade together, chasing championships, reaching the finals twice, and eventually standing on top of the league. Brown even finished that title run as Finals MVP. Years like that aren't just measured by games played. They're built through countless practices, long summers, road trips, and the moments cameras never capture. That's what makes this trade feel so significant to so many people. You don't spend nearly a decade beside someone, working toward the same goal, and finally reaching the top, without building something real. That's exactly why the ending feels so surprising to so many fans. Before all of this happened, listen to how they used to talk about each other. Go back to Jayson Tatum, and you don't hear someone simply talking about a teammate. You hear someone giving credit where he believed it belonged. His words were,
And he was like, yo, like, I couldn't have did this without JT, and that's when we shook hands. And I was just like, I love you, bro.
that isn't the kind of thing people usually say about just any coworker. It sounds like someone recognizing the person who stood beside him through every challenge. At the time, it gave fans every reason to believe the bond between them was genuine. Now go back even further and listen to Jaylen Brown years before this trade. When he was asked about Tatum, there wasn't any hesitation.
Well, that's my man, you know, that's my dog. He still can't guard me.
That's my man. He even followed it with a playful joke. That's the kind of back and forth you usually see between people who know each other well and are comfortable enough to laugh together. It didn't sound like rivals. It sounded like teammates who had built trust over many seasons. Now compare those moments with everything that's been said recently. On one side, there were comments like, "I love you, bro, and that's my man." On the other side, there were words like, "It's weird," "a message was sent," and concerns about respect. Whether those statements point to a deeper issue is something only the people involved truly know, but the contrast has definitely caught everyone's attention. So what changed between those two very different moments? That's the question everyone keeps asking. Part of the answer may involve events that never made headlines at the time. Reports indicated that before Boston made later roster moves, there had already been trade discussions involving Brown in previous years. One reported scenario involved Boston exploring a deal centered around acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo. That move never happened. And like many reported trade talks across the NBA, nothing became official. Still, stories like that can shape how fans look back at everything that followed. Whether those discussions affected relationships inside the organization isn't something that has been confirmed. But once news of Brown's trade became official, many people naturally started connecting past reports with current events. That's one reason the conversation has become much bigger than a normal transaction. Another reason the story keeps growing is because of what hasn't been said publicly. Tatum called the trade weird and described finding out after the decision had been made. Beyond that, he hasn't publicly addressed many of the larger questions people continue to debate. Some fans see that silence as meaningful, while others believe players don't owe the public an explanation. Without direct confirmation, nobody can say for certain what that silence means. Then there's another point raised by ESPN insider Tim McMahon.
The suspicion around the league is certainly this had a lot to do with the dynamic and the long-running tension that kind of escalated after this season between Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum.
He reported that long-running tension had escalated after this past season. If that reporting is accurate, it suggests this wasn't simply about salary or roster construction alone. However, those reports should still be viewed as reporting and not as confirmed statements from everyone involved. That's an important distinction. Looking at the full picture, it's easy to understand why this trade has generated so much discussion. The comments from Brown, Tatum's public reaction, reports from respected NBA insiders, and the timing of everything have created a story with far more questions than answers. Different people are connecting those pieces in different ways, and that's why debate around this trade continues. At its core, this isn't only about one player changing teams. It's also about how partnerships are viewed in professional sports. From the outside, relationships can look unbreakable. Fans see celebrations, championships, interviews, and unforgettable moments. Behind the scenes, though, every organization has conversations and decisions that the public never fully sees. Jaylen Brown said he felt a message was sent. Around the league, people have offered different opinions about what that message meant and who, if anyone, was responsible. Brad Stevens approved the basketball decision and the roster has changed. Beyond that, many of the bigger questions remain unanswered. It's also completely possible that this was simply a basketball decision driven by salary rules, roster planning, and long-term strategy. That's a reasonable explanation, and without direct evidence, it deserves to be considered alongside every other possibility. Until more information comes out, if it ever does, the debate will likely continue. Now it's your turn. Do you think this trade was simply part of doing business in today's NBA, or do you believe there was more happening behind the scenes? Share your thoughts down in the comments, because this is one conversation fans definitely aren't finished having. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with other NBA fans who want to join the discussion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.